Could it be? But me, your man, Louie T here. The Draft Prospects 101 series, your guide to some of the biggest and hottest names of the 2025 NFL Draft. We're starting this process off with the deepest position in this year's draft class. And I'm here to tell you that some teams are going to come away with some excellent football players all over this draft, from rounds 1 to probably 5. There may be a 6th or 7th round gem that is pulled. There could even be an undrafted running back that comes from this draft class that ultimately ends up being a stud, Terrell Davis style, right? I mean, that's how deep this draft class is. There are gems all over the place. I'm going to start in reverse order. I'm going to go over 20 backs in this series, starting with 20 to 10, right? So that's what we're going to do today in volume number 3. Tomorrow, we will knock down the next 5 backs, numbers 15 to, numbers 10 to 5 or 6. And then we'll count down the final 5 backs in volume 1. So we'll knock those out over the next 3 days. And so looking forward to getting into this process with you. I've already gotten through all of the edge rushers. So that will be the next position up in the series. We'll knock those out and we'll jump right into receivers. I'm already on tight ends. So this, like I said, this is going to go very quickly. We'll be live Friday night to kind of recap everything. So again, it's going to be fast paced and in your face, but I know you guys are ready because you've been waiting on me. So I'm late to the party. So let's get started. So I'm going to give you some honorable mentions. My list really starts with 15 backs, but I'll give you all the way to 20 because this is such a deep class. Up to 30 guys. I think I saw somewhere 32 draftable backs is what you'll see on most publications that list players to be drafted. I've never seen this many quality backs in a single draft class in my life. I've been doing this since 2012. So we're talking over a decade. We're talking, this is a baker's dozen now, 13 years for me covering the draft. I've never seen this many draftable backs, this many good quality backs. And it's whatever you're looking for. You're looking for speed. You're looking for size. You're looking for a combination of the two. You're looking for guys that can catch it out of the backfield. You're looking for guys that can offer you a little bit of something extra in the return game. There's a little something for everyone in this particular draft. So let's jump in. I'll give you number 20. The 20th rated back on my board is Ja'Quinden Jackson out of Arkansas. 6'1", 229 pounds. This guy is huge. All right. He is a really big back. Nimble feet for a big back. Can catch it out of the backfield, can run in between the tackles, obviously, but also can get outside a little bit. I thought he looked really good in SEC play. Watched a lot of Arkansas, watching a lot of these different defensive players. So I ran into Arkansas quite a bit, ran into Ja'Quinden Jackson along my journey and said, wow, you know who he reminds me of? And what I always love to do when I talk about skill position players, receivers and running backs, tight ends, etc. If I can, and generally the way I watch film is I watch the player and whoever first comes to my mind, then I try to sync it up with numbers that match, right? I'm not going to match up a 5'9" back to a 6'1" back. That doesn't make any sense. Even though their skill set may be very similar, you're looking for comps that make sense. Ja'Quinden Jackson, as soon as I saw him, and this may be a little bit going back in the archives a bit for some of you, but he reminds me so much of Rashard Jennings. Big physical back, faster than you expect, can do a little bit of everything. And so he's a really interesting guy. And again, some team is going to be looking for a big physical back. Ja'Quinden Jackson, obviously at 6'1", 230, will check that box and fit that bill for some team in this draft. Checking in at number 19 is a guy that I like a lot. And Raheem Sanders out of South Carolina. They call him Rocket Sanders. He was one of the comeback players of the year in college football last year at 6 feet 217. He was a dynamic player in the SEC at Arkansas, as a matter of fact. Got injured and had an injury-riddled 2023. Was looking for a fresh start, transferred to South Carolina, rejuvenated his career at South Carolina last year. And he was dynamic. And he's a bigger back. That 217 and all of the weights and heights I'm giving you are accurate weights and heights from the combine. But, you know, guys get into some of the best shape of their life for the combine. He didn't play at 217 last year. There's no way you watched him at South Carolina last year and said, oh, yeah, that looks like 217. He looked like he was playing at 225, okay? He is huge. He is massive, but he can run, all right? And so that's why they call him Rocket Sanders. And he ran a 4.46 at the combine. It doesn't look like it's moving that fast, but you see guys in the SEC can't catch him, right? So he can catch it out of the backfield. He's got a lot more wiggle than you expect from a guy his size. And I was so surprised his ability to change directions, cut without having to stop. So many times you see bigger backs when they look to change directions have to actually stop their feet, stop their momentum to go in a different direction. He does not have to do that. He can give you a little wiggle and shake and get into a different direction without having to stop his feet. And I was impressed with his ability to catch the football out of the backfield as well. And then, again, you see why they call him Rocket, even though you're surprised. I was surprised. I can't speak for you. I was surprised to see him break away as many times as he did from defenders because he's a bigger back. You just don't expect to see him run that fast. But then the 4.46 he ran at the combine kind of explains why they call him Rocket at that size. My comp for him is Zach Charbonnet. If you recall him coming out of UCLA maybe 2 years ago, drafted by the Seattle Seahawks, really good back in the league right now. Got some extended looks this year when Kenneth Walker III was out in Seattle, and I thought he made the most of his opportunities. He reminds me a lot of him, but I think he's faster than Zach Charbonnet. But their games are very similar. They'll run you over, but they can also run around you as well. And they're similar size backs as well. I saw a lot of Zach Charbonnet in Raheem Rocket Sanders. He's my 19th back in this draft. Next guy up is Jaden Blue. And so when you're talking about a number of these guys, sometimes we can get caught up in 40 times. I think that's one of the most deceiving things you can do as an evaluator or someone that is looking for talent at the running back position in particular. There's certain positions where you got to be able to run in order to function at a high level at that particular position. Corner probably being the one at the top of the pile when you're talking about having to be able to run, right? Running back, it's great to have speed, but it's not everything at the running back position. Sometimes we get caught up in speed so much that you lose sight of how good a running back is, right? I always say, think about some of your favorite backs in the NFL right now, some of the better running backs in the league right now. Some of you probably don't even know what their 40 times are. Josh Jacobs was one of the leading rushers in the league last year. Do you know Josh Jacobs ran a 4.6, 5.40? Do you know that? Josh Jacobs ran a 4.6. Do you care? He's one of the best running backs in the league right now. Derrick Henry does not run a 4.4, guys. Okay, so it's just amazing. Like, do you like David Montgomery? I like David Montgomery a lot. David Montgomery is a 4.6 back. So a lot of times we get caught up in speed with these guys. Don't allow the speed to cloud your judgment. If he's a quality back, it will show itself on the football field. That's where the tape comes into play. It's nice if you can run fast, especially if that's what you're looking for. But if you're looking for a quality back, don't lose sight of what a guy can do. Add the speed in, but don't lose sight of what a guy can provide you with, even if he isn't the fastest back in the world, okay? And sometimes game speed is faster than, combine speed, testing speed. Anyway, I love Jaden Blue. Jaden Blue is 5'9", 196. This is a guy that can flat out fly. Ran a 4.38 at the combine, and you can see it on tape. Out of Texas, He is a guy to me that if you're looking for a change of pace back in this year's draft class, like a pure change of pace back, like you can't put Jaden Blue on the field and give it to him 21 times and throw it to him another 5 times out of the backfield. You're asking for trouble. You'll run the tread off of his tires like that. But which is why at Texas, he was a dual back, right? He was a guy that split carries with other backs. But when he's on the field, it's noticeable. He's dynamic. He can catch it. He can run it. And you watch certain games, i.e. the playoff game against, who was it against? Clemson. He changed that game. He set the tone early with a big run for a touchdown. And then when Clemson mounted that comeback, it was his carry that pushed Clemson away for good and put him away for good in that game. He's so dynamic. Every time he touches it, he can go the distance. You can throw it to him. He's a threat to catch it out of the backfield and not just check downs and screens. You can run this guy up the sideline on a wheel route and throw it to him. You can run that Texas route, that arrow route out of the backfield, get it to him over the middle of the field and watch him go. So he's a dynamic guy in a number of different facets. My comp for him, the first guy that came to my mind was Javid Best. There's a lot of, again, some of you, this might shoot right over your head, but if you could recall what Javid Best was in Detroit, and a lot of Detroit Lions fans would tell you, had Javid Best stayed healthy, no telling what Detroit would have been able to do, because one of the biggest knocks on Detroit during Matthew Stafford's tenure was either the defense wasn't good or they had no run game to support him. And Javid Best was a difference maker in Detroit, but concussions ended his career prematurely. But Javid Best, in that little, space of time that we saw him, that small sample size, he looked the part of a dynamic, game-changing change of pace back in the NFL. I see some of those same qualities out of Jaden Blue. He's my 18th back in this draft. Again, it's so deep. You can get a guy like Jaden Blue in probably the 4th, 5th round and feel damn good about what you just got, right? In a normal draft, Jaden Blue, think about Jaden Blue and think about a guy like maybe Devin Achane, and that's probably where he would have gone. Achane went 2nd round, right? In a normal draft, Jaden Blue's probably no worse than a 3rd round pick. And he may be a 3rd rounder this year. The likelihood is he'll be a day 3 pick, more likely than not. So that's just how deep this draft class is at the running back position. Checking in at number 17 is Taj Brooks, running back out of Texas Tech. This is a guy that I really like a lot. Ran a 4.5 240 at 5'9 and 1/4 and 214 pounds. There's a lot to like about his game. You watch him, and again, he's another one of these dudes. I'm not sure he played at 214 last year, right? Watching him, he looks every bit of 220, right, on the tape. But he moves like a guy that's 5'9 and 1/4, but 210, right? So he's got the agility that you're looking for. He's quicker than fast. Obviously, the 40 time, states that, but don't get it twisted. He's got plenty of pop and juice, can make guys miss. Great in tight quarters, meaning in that phone booth where you get that football, sometimes you got to be BYOB, right? Be your own blocker and make somebody miss. He's got a nice jump cut, the agility to get to the outside and bounce a run that starts inside where there's traffic. You see a guy foot race to the corner, doesn't always win that foot race, but he's capable of getting there. And he's a physical runner, can finish runs, can make you miss. A lot of facets to his game. And again, just a all-around quality back. None of his traits stand out above the rest, right? He's good at just about everything. But this is a guy here that I liken to my NFL comp for him is J.K. Dobbins. I liken him to J.K. Dobbins, the healthy J.K. Dobbins, the one that came out of Ohio State that was taken, I believe, in the 2nd round by the Baltimore Ravens and had a very promising career before all of the injuries. So I'll tell you that this dude is super talented. And again, another one of these guys that I think you could easily say is going to be a sleeper in this draft. somebody's going to get themselves a good football player here because I look at Taj Brooks and I see a quality NFL running back. And I think he's a guy that, again, can help an NFL team. And it wouldn't shock me if he ended up going day 2. Wouldn't shock me if someone fell in love with Taj Brooks and took him in the 3rd round. I don't see him going in the 2nd round. I wouldn't be shocked if he went in the 3rd round, right? I still think he's more of a, day 3, 4th round selection. That's where I have him pegged in this draft. But again, it wouldn't shock me. It just depends on when that run on running backs happens and how many of them go. And again, what flavor are you looking for, right? That's going to be something that ultimately you have to decide is what are you looking for, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But my next guy, so that was number 17. So now we're looking at number 16, Trevor Etienne, obviously the brother of Travis Etienne Jr. And spoiler alert, that's my comp for him. I know that's low-hanging fruit, but their styles are so similar. 5'8" and 3/4, 198 pounds, ran a 4.42 at the combine out of Georgia. Their games are so similar. He looks just like his brother when he carries the football. I think his brother might have been a little bit quicker. I think he's actually faster than his brother. I'd have to check the 40 times there to confirm that, but I think he may actually be faster than his brother. That said, he, just like his brother, he can catch it out of the backfield. He's a dynamic runner. In between the tackles, I think, Travis wasn't as, I didn't think, as dynamic in between the tackles. I actually think Trevor is a little bit better in between the tackles than Travis was. And he can also obviously get outside, make things happen there. And so I think there's a lot of similarities between their game. And there's a place in this league for a Trevor Etienne at 4'4", 240, with the ability to catch it, with the ability to get inside and outside. Again, undersized back, so he's more of a change of pace guy at sub 200 pounds. But again, he's a guy that definitely could find a home where you've got a bigger back and you need someone sort of like what Justice Hill is to Travis, to Derrick Henry in Baltimore. You're looking for that change of pace. Derrick Henry, big physical back, still has the wheels to take it the distance. But when you bring somebody in, you don't want to bring in a guy that has the same build and look to him. You want to give them something off speed or change of pace, which is why they call it change of pace back. Justice Hill fits that build to a T for the Baltimore Ravens. Trevor Etienne fits that bill for me. And I think they're very similar. Him and his brother are very similar when you watch them. If you just had Etienne on the back, not Etienne Jr., which is what you see with Travis, and then you just have Etienne on the back with Trevor. If you just had Etienne on the back, I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference between the two of them. I wouldn't be able to tell you. So they're very, very similar. Are those two. And so he's my 16th rated back in this draft. So let's get to, now we're getting into the meat and potatoes. So those were extras, right? Those are the guys that I feel like are probably going to hear their name called day 3, right? Early day 3, most of them. And again, I wouldn't be shocked if a Trevor Etienne hears his name in day 2 in the 3rd round, right? But more likely than not, he's a 4th round back, right? So now let's get to the guys that I think are day 1 or 2 backs, right? And these guys that I'm going to name here, I think are all day 2 backs, just for the record. But again, we'll see where that run at running back, because the league is funny sometimes. They'll look at the depth of this position and they'll just wait. Hey, let me go get this tackle. Not a lot of those in this draft. Let me get my linebacker. Not a lot of those in this draft, right? They'll pick out of those positions where they say it's not a lot of depth. Let me go get mine first. I can double back and get me a running back. And then the run on running backs don't start until late 2nd round or something like that. You just never know, right? But in any event, let's get to the guys that I really think are, massive difference makers in this draft. And we start at number 15 with BACKS Vol.3, running back out of Virginia Tech. 5'9", 206 pounds. We know he lit the combine up, ran a 4.32 40. Brings a lot of traits that are transferable over to the NFL game. This is a guy that is so dynamic, so explosive. You can do so many things with him. I talked about this earlier. When you look at some of these guys, they offer you other facets like special teams. This is a guy that can return punts, has done that in his career, can return kickoffs. He's prolific in that regard, and obviously can tote the rock. And he was the main rock toter at Virginia Tech, despite being a diminutive back. At 206 pounds, he was carrying the ball. He was getting it 21 times, 23 times in a game. He was catching it another 4, 5, 6 times out of the backfield. So he was one of those all-purpose dynamos, right? At one point last year, he was 5th in the nation in all-purpose yards because, again, return ability, catch it out of the backfield, rushing the football as well. As we talked about already, super explosive, 4.3 240, but you see that on tape. You give this guy a crease of daylight, get him into the secondary, get him into that second wave of defenders, and he's in what we call an angle beater, right? He's a guy that your safety can have the proper angle, but this speed is just too much for that angle, outruns it, and gets to the end zone. Wins a lot of foot races. He's not a guy you're going to catch from behind very often. The one massive knock on him right now, and it's something that you can clean up, obviously, but we've seen guys clean it up, but we've also seen it destroy careers as well, is carrying the football. He's a guy that has 9 fumbles over the last 2 seasons at Virginia Tech, losing 4 of those fumbles. So this is something that he has to clean up because he's too dynamic to be a guy that you keep off the field because of fumbling issues. As a matter of fact, one of the guys I comp him to had a fumbling issue in his career, but you knew how dynamic he was. Unfortunately, his career was cut short. And I'm talking about another fellow Hokie in David Wilson. A lot of you, again, right over your head, you may not remember him. If you're old enough to remember, I believe he was the 2012 draft. Again, the first year I was doing this, he got drafted by the New York Giants. As a matter of fact, they won the Super Bowl the year before. I think they picked him 32nd overall, if I'm not mistaken. And he was such a dynamic back at Virginia Tech. They put him on kickoffs. They gave it to him out of the backfield. He was so dynamic. He used to do the backflips when he would score touchdowns. But he fumbled quite a bit, right? He had a fumble on his, I want to say his second carry of his NFL career. And Coughlin was the coach at the time. He benched him. He didn't play anymore. But I think he fumbled a couple more times that following year. But he had to retire prematurely after his second season due to a neck issue. But their games are very similar, can offer you special teams value, extremely fast and dynamic. He catch it out of the backfield. But another guy, if you want to think more in today's NFL, well, not today's NFL, but more current, a guy that just entered the league maybe a year or two ago, Devin Achane, right, is a very good comp. Similar size, explosiveness. Achane ran a sub 4.4 just like Tootin did. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Achane and Tootin were heading towards that 4.2 range. Tootin at 4.32. I think Achane was right in that same range. Achane might have even gotten a 4.2. So the speed is very similar between the two. They're dynamic. Every time they touch it, you hold your breath because that could be the one that goes the distance. And so Tootin is a guy that is very interesting in this draft. How do teams perceive him? Because, again, he was sort of a workhorse at Virginia Tech. His size doesn't suggest that he would be that at the next level, but he's got the ability to do a lot of things. And so I'm interested to see where he ends up and how teams decide to utilize him. Checking in at number 14 for me is Jordan James, running back out of Oregon, 5'9.5", 205 pounds. This is a guy that at the combine ran a 4.55. And so Really interesting dynamic back here. You watch him and he looks like he plays faster than 4.55. He doesn't give me 4.55 vibes. One of those guys that I bet you Daniel Jeremiah thought was going to run faster, at the combine. And this is why I usually like to have some of this work done already so that I can match up speeds. So because you want to know what you're looking for. He looks like a guy that was going to run, 4.48, and he's not that far away from that. But like Daniel Jeremiah said, there's a big difference in a war room between, that second number being a 4 and that second number being a 5, or that second number being a 6 or that second number being a 5, et cetera, et cetera. So 4.55, not as dynamic as it appears when you watch him, but he's sudden, man. He's quick. He's decisive. He gets downhill in a hurry. Again, one of those guys that can make cuts seamlessly without having to stop his feet, and can change directions, can catch it out of the backfield, make himself a very presentable target to the quarterback out of the backfield. He was a huge part of that Oregon offense, very instrumental in them winning the Big Ten. A lot of people forget they won the Big Ten. They beat Ohio State in their regular season matchup. He had a really big game against the Buckeyes the first time. No one had a good game against them the second time, obviously, but he was really good for the Ducks this year. And he's a guy that I think will go under the radar in this draft with so many dynamic backs, so many guys, like nothing. Again, another one of these guys that, nothing necessarily just stands out. Like he doesn't jump out at you with size. He doesn't jump out at you with speed or, dynamic, make you miss or anything of that. He just does everything well. And sometimes guys go under the radar because they're not dynamic, right? Case in point, last year, Bucky Irvin. If you watched him, you could see he was dynamic. You knew he had talent, but because he didn't run fast, because he wasn't the biggest back, he went under the radar, ended up being a day 3 pick, was one of the best backs in last year's draft class. So again, don't always be fooled by speed. Trust your eyes. He's one of those guys where you watch him, trust your eyes. He's a damn good football player and a really good running back. So my comp for him in the league is Tyjae Spears. And just think about when Tyjae Spears came out of Tulane and how you felt about him. Well, this is 2 years ago, I believe it was. And how we said, man, Tyjae Spears has a chance to be, one of those under the radar backs, really good. And I've liked what I've seen from him in Tennessee when he's been healthy. His problem is staying healthy, right? They went out and got Tony Pollard to be a 1-2 punch there in Tennessee, and he hasn't been able to stay healthy. But when he's healthy, he's been pretty dynamic. I liken Jordan James to Tyjae Spears coming out of Tulane, and how excited we were about Tyjae Spears when he was coming out of Tulane. Their games are very similar. The size is very similar. And I think he's got a chance to be really, really solid in this league, does Jordan James. That was number 14. Now we're going to number 13. Now you want to talk about dynamic backs. This guy checks off the box. All of the boxes, all of the signs of a dynamic back. I'm talking about Brashard Smith of SMU, 5'10", 194. This is a guy that transferred over from Miami and his final year in college to SMU while switching positions. So this is a guy, and this is why he's so low on the list, but this is also a reason why he could be a lot higher on the list, depending on how you look at it. Glass half full, he is upside, right? This is only 1 year at running back position. Glass half empty, only 1 year at the running back position, right? So at the end of the day, this is a guy that is extremely dynamic, ran a 4.39 40 at the combine. So he's fast. And the thing that I love about him, and the reason why I think he's got a chance to be, and again, he's got to go to the right team, be in the right system, and be utilized correctly. If he's not put in the right position to succeed, this is a guy that could come in the NFL with all this talent and end up just being another guy. I've seen it happen. There have been so many talented backs come into this league, end up on the wrong team, not utilized properly, and they never fully realize their potential. They don't maximize their potential in this league. I think about a guy like TJ Yeldon, who I thought was super talented, a guy like Kenyon Drake, who I thought the world of coming out of Alabama. Both of those were Alabama backs, as a matter of fact. I don't think their talents were maximized in this league because I don't think they went to the proper places to have their talents put on display correctly. So sometimes that stuff matters, obviously. But Brashard Smith is so dynamic. He's so skinny, though. And that's something I worry about with him, is how you're going to utilize him. But boy, do I love the way he catches the ball out of the backfield. I mean, he looks the part of a wide receiver at the running back position. And this is why I said, if he goes to the right place, like if he ended up with Sean Payton in Denver, right? Like that'd be the perfect place for him, because Sean Payton's going to utilize that aspect of his game as a pass catcher. You'll get some of these teams that don't understand that, hey, this guy used to be a receiver. Utilize him as such. I think if you get him on the right team that can isolate him on linebackers and safeties and one-on-one matchups, he's going to do damage at the NFL level, not just as a running back, but also as a pass catcher. And that's what makes him so intriguing for me. When I look at him, I see so many aspects. Obviously, the explosion, right? He's patient enough to allow blocks to set up. One of the old adages is patient to explode through, right? He's an example of a guy that does that really well. I think he sees it well for a guy that's a first-year back, although I think his vision could use a little work. But again, 1 year as a running back, so that's to be expected. But when he sees it, he goes. And again, I think his contact balance is a lot better than I was expecting for a guy that was a former wide receiver. As I've already said, he catches it really well. Obviously, he's not the best in between the tackles necessarily, but boy, when you get him out in space, when you get him outside, when you get him singled up against somebody in coverage as a wide receiver, man, is he dynamic. There's so much to like with Brashard Smith. And again, he's just scratching the surface, right? In a normal draft where if there aren't this many backs, this is a second-round pick, and he still may be a second-round pick. But this is without a doubt a second-round pick you're talking about here. But because there's so many backs in this draft class, he's probably a third-round pick. He's probably a third-round pick. But again, in any other draft, we're not talking about him as the 13th best back. This guy, in a normal draft, he's the fifth, fourth, fifth, sixth best back in that draft. Just not in this particular draft because of how much depth is around him. But my comp for him, and this is how you know I think he's got a chance to be special. My comp for him is James Cook. James Cook is looking for $15 million a year, right? He's told Buffalo, I need $15 million a year, right? When Saquon got his extension from the Eagles, all he posted on socials was eyeball emojis. Like, I hope y'all looking at this, right? Brashard Smith has that kind of ability. Cook can catch it out of the backfield. He's just as dangerous a receiver as he is a runner. But Cook is so dynamic. He's so explosive. When he came out of Georgia, he didn't have a lot of weight on him. But he's put on bulk over the last couple of years, probably put on another 7 to 8 pounds of muscle. And he's a guy that looks different, can carry the load in Buffalo. They use him correctly. And again, that's what Brashard Smith needs, a team that understands, hey, he can catch it out of the backfield. We can run him, we can run the football with him, but we don't want to run him into the ground. He shouldn't be running in between the tackles 12 times in a game. Get him on the perimeter. Yeah, you don't give him some inside carries too. You don't want him to be one-dimensional, but understand where his strengths are and utilize that and put him in the best positions to succeed. If he goes to the right place, he could be really dynamic. All right. I see him as the 13th best back in this league, and he gives me James Cook vibes. And if he maximizes his potential and becomes James Cook, you're talking about one of the best running backs in all of the league. That's the type of talent Brashard Smith potentially has. Coming in at number 12, to me, I think this is the best DNA match of the entire draft at the running back position. Like, there's no disputing who he is when you watch him. I think we're all in agreement here. And I can't speak for you, and I won't. But Damian Martinez is my 12th rated back in this draft out of Miami. And I've loved his game since he was at Oregon State. I remember watching him at Oregon State saying, who is this guy? Damn, he looks good to me. Very impressive. Transfers over to Miami, kept the party going. 6 feet, 217 pounds. And this was really impressive because the one thing when he was at Oregon State, I said, damn, he's not very fast. I could tell. Running that 4.5 140 at the combine, that elevates his stock, because that's the one thing you question with him is, can he run? He can pass protect. He can catch it out of the backfield. He can run inside the tackles, in between the tackles. He can run outside. He can bounce. He's got nimble feet for a bigger back at almost 220 pounds. He probably plays at 220, right? I told you, guys get in the best shape of their career for the combine so they can run faster, right? He probably played at 222, 220 last year, 225 is my guess, somewhere in that neighborhood. And he looks the part, right? He plays like a 220-pound back, but he runs and moves, right? His agility, his ability to jump cut, got a nice jump cut. Again, you don't see bigger backs with jump cuts and the ability to bounce the inside, run outside, right? Finish runs physically, do all of the little back stuff, but be who you are, right? Which is a big physical bruising back. I don't know if there's a better DNA match in the entire draft at the running back position than Damian Martinez. His comp is easy. It's James Conner. You watch him, that's James Conner. To me, like the first time I watched him, I said, that's James Conner. You watch, again, he's one of those dudes. I said the same thing about Trevor and Travis Etienne. You just put Etienne on the back, I don't know who I'm watching, right? Whether it's Trevor or Travis. If you just took the name off the back of the jersey, I wouldn't be able to tell you if that's James Conner or Damian Martinez, right? So he's my number 12 back in this draft. And then checking in at number 11 is one of my favorite backs in this entire draft class. He is, to me, extremely underrated in this year's draft. Someone's going to get themselves a damn good football player. And, you know, with some of these guys, it may not show right away, right? It may take 2, it may take 3 years for them to get to the point where they've established themselves as a dynamic back in this league, or a guy that has sticking power, right? Depending on where he ends up, this next guy, I could see him having an immediate impact right away on the team that drafts him. My number 11 back in this draft is LeQuint Allen out of Syracuse. 6 feet, 204 pounds, did not run a 40. I think I know why he didn't run a 40, because when you watch him on tape, he's not the fastest guy in the world, okay? And so I don't think he wanted that to hurt his draft stock, because you can hide your 40 time at your pro day, right? I mean, again, from us, you can't hide them from the evaluators. They're going to go to the Syracuse pro day. They're going to send somebody there, and they're going to have their hand time, but it's a hand time. It's not an actual accurate time. So we may hear that he ran a 4.58. We may hear he ran a 4.52. You don't know what the hell he ran, right? That's the secret sauce of not running at the combine, where everybody's going to see your time. And it's not a hand time, all right? It's an actual time, right? So he's one of those dudes that I can just do everything. And I call him Travion Henderson light in this draft. You want great value Travion Henderson? Don't want to pay the Travion Henderson price? But you want everything that Travion Henderson offers you except speed? LeQuint Allen is the man for the job. You want to talk about physical? Let's get physical. You want to talk about physical in the pass pro game? He's sticking his nose in there and decleating guys. I mean, it was so much fun watching this dude light dudes up. He's going out on a chip. He gets a piece of the edge rusher. He's on the floor. He's on the ground, right? I've seen him pick up blitzes where he just stonewalls a guy right in the A-gap. Bow! Stops his momentum. Head on, right? And I watched him do that at least 3-4 different times, you know? He was so much fun to watch. He catches it out. You want to talk about catching the ball? Go look at his numbers, okay? Go look at his numbers. They utilize LeQuint Allen as much as anybody in the nation. At one point, I think one season, this guy might have had 40 catches for over 600 yards receiving. Like, you don't, backs in college don't do that, okay? Most backs, dynamic backs, 23 catches, most of them are check downs, swing routes out of the backfield, hitches, wide receiver screens where they, motion them out and then throw a screen and they catch it, got blockers in front of them. Sometimes these are actually runs because they're behind the line of scrimmage. This guy is actually running routes. This guy is actually going down the field. They're throwing him the ball. It's not just a bunch of checkdowns. And that's consistent throughout his career. So he's a pass catcher. He's a runner. I love his running style. Quick feet, in and out of cuts, jump cut. He's got this thing where he lifts his feet up in the air, so ankle tackles don't get to him a lot of times. I think if you want the full LeQuint Allen package, one game, go watch his bowl game from this year. I think they were playing Boston College, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe playing BC. I don't remember the team. Matter of fact, I can tell you the team they were playing. Give me 1 second. Let me tell you right now who it was. Man, was that a fun game to watch. And you'll get everything you need out of LeQuint Allen in that one game. You don't need to watch. Of course, I had to watch more because he was just so much fun. But let me see. LeQuint Allen. It was... Here we go. It was versus Washington State. That was the bowl game. Washington State. That's who they played. If you want the full LeQuint Allen package, there it is. Have at it. You'll see everything you need to see in that one game. I mean, he is I think he has a chance. And my comp for him speaks to what I think he can be. And my comp for him is Bucky Irvin. And Irvin is 5'9" or so. LeQuint is 6 feet. And so he's a little bit bigger. He's bigger, but I think he offers you everything. Now, and again, he's a much better pass protector than Bucky Irvin, but I'm looking at it from this perspective. Irvin was overlooked because of his speed or lack thereof. I think LeQuint Allen is a guy that's going to get overlooked because of his lack of top end speed. Right? I don't know what it's ultimately going to be. Probably going to be a 4.5 something. Right? Bucky Irvin last year ran like a 4.58 or a 4.6 too, something like that. And everybody soured on Bucky Irvin, like they didn't watch him at Oregon and didn't see how dynamic he was. Right? All of a sudden, Bucky Irvin can't play because he can't run fast. Okay, cool. I think LeQuint Allen is in that same, kind of realm right now where and hopefully, and this is it's a copycat league, and hopefully what ultimately happens for LeQuint Allen is teams see what Bucky Irvin did. Bucky Irvin rushed for over 1,100 yards last year. Okay. Bucky Irvin caught it out of the backfield last year. Bucky Irvin was a dynamic player that was a huge part of the reason why the Buccaneers not only won their division, but had a chance to do damage in the postseason last year. He was a massive reason why they were able to get out of that NFC South alive. LeQuint Allen brings all of that to the table, but he's a better pass blocker and he's a bigger back. And so I just think he's got a chance to be a day one plug and play, dynamic back for someone. He, to me, again, TreVeyon Henderson, like great value, TreVeyon Henderson. Don't want to pay TreVeyon Henderson prices. And again, you got to pay for speed, right? LeQuint doesn't have that. But if you want a guy that can catch it like TreVeyon does, you want a guy that can pass protect like TreVeyon does, you want a guy that can be better in between the tackles than I think TreVeyon Henderson is, because TreVeyon is more of a outside the tackles type of guy, right? Get him out in space, right? But if you want a guy that can run in between the tackles, outside the tackles, catch the ball, pass protect, all in one package, LeQuint Allen is your man. LeQuint Allen is your man. So he checks in at number 11. So For me, let me recap 20 through 11 real fast. We'll get to any comments, then we'll get out of here. All right. So number 20, Jaquindon Jackson, running back out of Arkansas, 6'1", 229 pounds. Reminds me of Rashad Jennings, the former Jacksonville Jaguar, New York Giant, et cetera, et cetera. Split an image, right? Checking in at number 19, Raheem Rocket Sanders out of South Carolina, 6 feet, 217 pounds, probably played at 220, 225 last year. Ran a 4.46 at the combine. Reminds me a lot of Zach Charbonnet. Faster than Zach Charbonnet, but a lot of the same mannerisms, ability to get in and out of cuts at a bigger size. Can run through guys, can run over guys. Sanders checks in at number 19. 18, Jaden Blue, Texas Longhorns running back, 5'9", 196. Ran a 4.38, I believe. 4.38 at the combine. Is a special back in terms of his ability to catch it out of the backfield, be explosive and dynamic, hit that second wave of defenders, and get ghost. And so my comp for him is Javid Best. I just remember how dynamic Javid Best was coming out of Cal and what he would have been in this league if not for the concussion issues and having his career cut short. I just see a lot of Javid Best in Jaden Blue. Checking in at number 17, Taj Brooks, Texas Tech running back, 5'9" and a quarter, 214. Again, another guy that looked like he played at about 220 last year. Ran a 4.52 at the combine. Gives me J.K. Dobbins vibes. Really, really interesting back that I think has a chance to be really good in this league. Again, and he's one of those dudes, you can give it to him 25 times, right? He's built to be able to take on a workload. He's not one of these 205-pound, 203-pound, 197-pound backs. He's 220 pounds. He listed at 214. Again, he played heavier than that last year. I guarantee you. So you can give it to him 25 times. Again, my comp for him is J.K. Dobbins. Checking in at number 16 is Trevor Etienne, 5'8" and 3/4 back, so 5'9", 198, so 5'9", 200 pounds roughly, out of Georgia, ran a 4.4, 240 at the combine. Again, reminds me of his brother, Travis Etienne Jr. Again, I said this already. If you take the nameplate off the back, if it just says Etienne, I wouldn't be able to tell you which is which. They look like, they play like each other. The mannerisms are the same. I think Trevor was, or Trevor is faster. I think Travis is quicker, if that makes sense. Checking in at number 15. Those are all like day 3 backs to me. All right. Now you get to the guys that I think are day 2 backs in this draft. And you start with Basul Tutin, running back out of Virginia Tech, 5'9", 206 pounds. Ran that blazing 4.3, 240 at the combine. A guy that can do a little bit of everything, catch it out of the backfield, run it, can give you some special teams value, can return punts and kickoffs if need be. He brings so much to the table, all-purpose dynamo, and he's a guy that I find very interesting in this process. And I wonder what team drafts him and how they're going to utilize him, because he has a chance to come in and be lightning in a bottle year 1 for some team, right? You put him in the right system. Again, a great example, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Commanders fan, but you put him next to Jaden Daniels in a read option setting, and you're forcing a defensive end to either crash down and tackle him or have to allow Jaden Daniels to get outside. They may choose Jaden, you give it to Basul Tutin, and you get a seam and look out, right? Like, that's what the Commanders are missing. Someone that can change the game in that way. He's one of those guys, but there's so many teams that could use a Basul Tutin. It's not just the Commanders. Every team is looking for this kind of guy with this kind of home run ability. We'll see where he ultimately lands. I got him looking like a Devin Achane type guy. I also comped him to David Wilson going back a ways, another fellow Hokie from Virginia Tech. Coming in at number 14, Jordan James, guy that's 5'9.5", 205 pounds out of Oregon. I think he ran a 4.5. What did he run at the combine? 4.55 at the combine. I liken him to Tajay Spears when he was coming out of Tulane, a guy that is really good at everything, not great at one thing, but I just like his movement skills. He's a very skillful back, can catch it, does whatever is asked of him. Don't love him as a pass protector necessarily, but this is the thing, and I need to say this, and I'm going to say this again in each of the volumes. I'm going to say it again in volume 2. I'm going to say it again in volume 1. These backs are not asked. A lot of them are not asked to be pass protectors. So you can beat them up for not pass protecting them if you like. That shouldn't be the reason you choose not to draft a guy. You can teach a guy if they show the willingness, the physicality, the physical part of blocking. If they show the want to, I can teach them how to pass protect. I can teach them how to scan the line of scrimmage. You know, I can teach them to know who the guy they have to block, who they're responsible, because a lot of these guys don't even know who they are supposed to block. They're in the way a lot of times. So I don't really kill guys because a lot of them aren't asked to block in their schemes. You can tell the guys that are asked to block, who are tasked with, hey, you're in protection, right? You're a part of the 6-man protection here. You can tell the guys that have to block and the guys that really weren't asked to block. A lot of these guys are asked to just scan and get out, right? A lot of these guys, it's a fake. They're going the opposite way of the play, and it's a quick screen, right? A lot of these guys get out, become an eligible, check down, be there, swing out into the flats, be there for the, like, a lot of these guys aren't asked to stay in and protect. So I'm not going to kill a lot of these dudes for not being able to protect. As long as you show me the willingness to want to do so, I'm okay, right? Tajay Spears is his comp. 13, Brashard Smith, 5'10", 194-pound running back out of SMU, ran a 4.4 flat, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Wait, I think he might have been a 4.38 actually. 4.39 at 40 at the combine. Transferred over from Miami to SMU. Also changed positions while doing so from wide receiver to running back. And in his first year as a running back, was very dynamic at SMU. Helped them go over to the ACC and win that conference in their first year. Or excuse me, they won. They did not win the conference championship, though. They lost that to Clemson, but they still got they still got a bid into the playoffs. They were that good this past season. And Brashard Smith was a huge part of the reason why. My comp for him, James Cook. Brashard Smith, he shows the ability to catch it at an elite level. You can tell he was a former wide receiver. He did not make the transition to running back because he couldn't catch. He made the transition because it was a way for him to get on the field, and he now has carved out a niche for himself as a dynamic runner, whereas he would have just drowned in a sea of talented receivers, not necessarily that this draft class, but at 5'10", 194 pounds, he would not have separated himself from receivers in this league. There's those measurables come a dime a dozen with that type of speed at the receiver position. What makes you any different? But you add him again. One of the things I'm going to talk about throughout this process, there are not a lot of speed backs. Think about the NFL, and I've talked about this already. There are not a lot of dynamic speed backs in the NFL. You know, I talked about this. Some of your favorite running backs in the league, these are 4.6 guys, right? There are not a lot of elite speed guys in the NFL. You can probably think about 5 to 7 of them off the top of your head, right? And the ones that are truly impactful, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, like there aren't a lot of those guys, right? There's not a lot of those guys that absolutely with every touch, you hold your breath because that could be the one that goes to the house. There's not a lot of those guys. So when you are a Brashard Smith, you bring a commodity that there aren't a lot of guys like him in the NFL. Same with Basul Tutin and others like him, RJ Harvey and those types of guys. There aren't a lot of those guys in the NFL currently. That's a commodity that teams are looking for. change of pace backs look like Jalen Warren in this league, right? Guys that aren't as fast, but they're a change of pace from a Najee Harris, right? That's a change of pace in this league. Austin Eckler is a change of pace. Austin Eckler is a 4.5 40 guy. Might even be 4.6, right? Like, that's a change of pace in the NFL. These are the new wave. And if you can get one of these, it could change the game. So he looks like James Cook to me, man. That's on the high side, obviously. We'll see what he ultimately turns into. 12, Damian Martinez, running back out of Miami, transferred from Oregon State to Miami for his last year in college football. Took advantage of it playing alongside Cam Ward. 6 feet, 217, ran a 4.5 140. I think he's got the best DNA matchup and profile of any running back in this draft. He looks, smells, breathes, sleeps, eats. Pause. He looks the part of James Conner. Again, another one of those, take the name off the back, put him out there, let him run around. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference between who's who, right? He's my number 12 back in this draft. A really good back. And as we saw with James Conner, as time wore on, he got better and better. Damian Martinez strikes me as a guy that he's going to get better and better, right? As he settles into the NFL, he's going to be really good, I think, from the jump. But as he gets settled in, he could become better and better. And then my number 11 back is one of my most underrated backs in this entire draft class. I call him Travion Henderson Light. If you're looking for a great value option to Travion Henderson, again, he's not going to offer you the speed that Travion Henderson does. But if you're looking for a guy that's going to offer you the physicality in the pass pro game that Travion Henderson does, if you're looking for a guy that can catch it out of the backfield, probably better than Travion Henderson can, and a guy that can run in between the tackles and on the outside like Travion Henderson can, but probably a little bit better in between the tackles than Travion Henderson can. You're looking for LaQuint Allen of Syracuse. 6 feet, 204 pounds. So right around the same size. I think Travion Henderson might be 5'9", 205. He's 6 feet, 204. So again, great value, Travion Henderson. But LaQuint Allen, he does everything. And he does things at a high level, an elite level, pass catching, pass pro. That's at an elite level in this year's draft class. When you're surrounded by a bunch of backs who aren't prepared to step into the NFL day one and pass protect. He's one of the few in this draft that are ready to do so right now. My comp for him is Bucky Irvin, just from an impact standpoint. Not going to run the fastest. Bucky Irvin didn't run the fastest last year. That hurt his draft stock. Not going to run the fastest, but he can catch it out of the backfield like Bucky Irvin could or can run the football like Bucky Irvin showed he could last year and immediately had an impact. And I think LaQuint Allen goes to the right team. He could have an immediate impact like Bucky Irvin did last season. So those are the backs in volume 3, backs 11 through 20 in this year's draft class, according to me, your man, Louie T. Let's get to the comment section and we'll get out of here. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member. Or thank you for kicking us off today. Writes, feels like Genty is getting moderate buzz. It's only getting moderate buzz. Dude had an all-time historic season and his stock is basically lukewarm. I don't think that's the case. I'm going to be honest with you. We'll talk about Genty when we get to volume 1. I'll say this, though. I don't mind saying this. I might have said this already. I don't mind saying it again. Genty is the only back that is worth trading up for in this draft. And I'll take it a step further. If you said there's only one running back that is a first-round running back in this year's draft class, it's Genty, and it's not close. I can say this with 100%. I can say this 100% worry-free. Genty is the only top half of the first round back in this draft. And I feel confident saying that. To me, there is a sizable gap between him and the next best back in this draft. It's not like a canyon, but it's a valley. And trust me, it may feel like it's lukewarm. He'll go off the board rather quickly, I believe. But again, you know it's the running back position, and that's the thing that's a little iffy for me. Because let's be clear, there are no Adrian Peterson talents in this year's draft. That's not what we have going on here, right? There's no Saquon Barkley level talent in this year's draft. So if you remove that from the equation and you just let Genty stand on his own for what he was able to do and what the tape says, in this draft class, he should be taken in the top 10. And he will be. I feel confident in saying that. And if he doesn't, I'll be shocked if he doesn't, because there's not enough quarterbacks and tackles to push him out of the top 10, if you ask me. There are not enough edge rushers to push him out of the top, not elite ones, to push him out of the top 10. If this were a draft class like last year, he would get pushed out of the top 10. We had 6 quarterbacks going to top 12 picks, right? 5 of them go in the top 10. He would have got pushed out of the top 10 last year. This is not last year's draft. So I think he'll be fine when it's all said and done. Wilfredo Elias, been a member for 34 months. Really appreciate you. Who writes, Lou, always appreciate your hard work, man. Appreciate you for continuing to check out the content. Greatly appreciate you, man. He says, I'm a big Dylan Sampson fan. Everything about him just screams Commanders tag for me. Speed, vision, power, and was a captain for the Vols. Anytime they got a C on their chest, you shouldn't take that lightly. That's something that they definitely put value on with the Commanders. So if you see a guy with a C on their chest, that adds value for all the teams in the league, but specifically the Commanders, where they take that kind of stuff into consideration and value that and weigh it heavily, I may add. We saw of the 9 draft picks they had, I believe they had 9 last year, like 6 of them were captains. So something to definitely consider. We'll talk more about Sampson on volume 2. Hint, hint. Ree, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Ree writes, I've never subscribed to the stigma that running backs are a dime a dozen. A special running back can change life for you. I think you're seeing that now. The league went through this phase where they sort of, that same kind of adage of, you get a running back anytime, dime a dozen, don't pay running backs. And you remember, they had to fight just an offseason ago. Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, I think I'm forgetting maybe 1 or 2 more backs, were all franchise tagged. None of them could get paid. Remember, they set up this conference call when they started talking to one another. Eckler wanted to be traded from the Chargers because he didn't feel like he was getting paid enough money, and they felt like the position was being devalued, and they all got together and talked about how they could change the running back position. And the Cowboys didn't want to pay Derrick Henry how much did he get? $8 million, like whatever he ended up getting, and that was too much for them. Like, it's amazing. But what they were able to do last year, Henry, Jacobs, and of course Saquon Barkley, was they were able to move the running back position back to the forefront of the conversation of, hey, you got one of these guys, they can change everything, right? You're not wrong, Ree. You get the right running back, and it can do wonders for you. It really changes your offense drastically. You know, the safest play in a football game outside of a quarterback sneak is a handoff. Because as long as the snap is good and the quarterback doesn't get his foot stepped on for the most part, he's going to put it right in that carry, right? He's going to put it right in his stomach, and he's going to clamp down, and now you've taken all of the risk out of the play. There's so many factors that have to go right for a pass play to be successful, right? If you're in the shotgun, got to get a good snap off first. Second, you got to protect. Receivers got to run crisp routes, get open. Ball can't be batted at the line of scrimmage, right? That could be disastrous. Then the quarterback's got to make an accurate throw, right? And again, the depth of the route has to be correct. You can't have two receivers in the same neighborhood. You may bring another defender over there that could tip the ball and now it gets intercepted. So many things. And then when that's everything done right, the receiver still has to catch the football. You get a running back, it minimizes the chances of something going wrong. And if he's a dynamic back, as we saw in the NFC Championship game, the Commanders go on this long, grueling 7.5-minute, 18-play drive where they converted 2 4th downs just to settle for a field goal. First play from scrimmage, Saquon Barkley gets a handoff and goes 60 yards for a touchdown. That's a backbreaker. That changes everything. Ree, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ree writes, give me your Pam Mom running back. Old school Louie T fans know this acronym. Proficient at many, master of none. There's several of those guys in this draft. I've given you one. Jordan James is a Pam Mom superstar. Another guy that I think kind of fits in that. Let me see if I named him already. Taj Brooks is another one, right? Those are two guys that I don't necessarily think they stand out, especially Jordan James, because at least Taj Brooks is a little bit bigger. He's on the bigger side at 5'9", 220. He's 215. He checked in at the combine, but again, I think he played at 220 last year at Texas Tech. At least he's bigger, so he gives you that. Jordan James is nondescript. He's nondescript. He's 5'9", 205. There's 50 million backs that size. It's not fast at 4.55, right? That's not dynamic speed, right? Catches the ball okay, not great pass protector, right? Good agility, but not great, right? No separator, but he's just a really good back. He's proficient at many, a master of none, right? That's old school. That's real old school, Ree. That's real old school. Antoine Hoskins, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Antoine writes, Lou, if each team were a stock, what 3 teams are you investing in and why? Wow. If teams were a stock, well, I'm definitely investing in the Commanders. And again, not just because I'm a Commanders fan. I'm investing in the Commanders because of Jaden Daniels. And in my mind, thinking that was the worst team they're going to have around him. So it's only up from here in my mind. And again, anything could happen. Sophomore slump, anything, he could have a regression year like CJ Stroud did last year. But anything could happen. But I'm buying Commander stock. I'm buying Buffalo Bills stock. I love what they did this offseason. I love the moves that they made. They got to get the situation straight with James Cook, but I really like where they are, and they literally were they were literally a Chris Jones head being in front of the camera angle away from advancing to the Super Bowl. And I think they win the Super Bowl if they get there. Josh Allen is close. He's really close. I'm buying Buffalo Bills stock because I think he's close. And then let's see, there's got to be a young up and coming team that I'm looking at, and I'm just like, really like what they're doing. Believe it or not, I probably, and this is the thing, we don't know what Ben Johnson is as a coach, but I just like that roster. I like what they've assembled. I think Caleb Williams is going to be a good quarterback. They got talent. They fortified the offensive line. Believe it or not, I'm going to buy Chicago Bears stock. I actually think, you know who else I'm buying stock in? You said 3. I'll throw this one in for free, Denver Broncos stock. I think they've gotten better this offseason too with their roster. And Bo Nix is only going to get better. If I had to sub someone out, it'd be Chicago for Denver. The Broncos defensively, we know what they are defensively. And I just think with them adding Evan Ingram and getting faster, and I think they're going to add a dynamic back this year. Look out for the Denver Broncos. They could get really nasty fast. JLG, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. JLG writes, you're 100% correct on Genty. He's the only top half running back in this class. This is a deep class, but not a lot of top-end talent. Look, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sugarcoat you. I'm telling you what I think. And again, you don't have to agree with me. This is the beauty of the draft. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But and I'm listening if you try to convince me that there's another back that belongs in the class of Genty in this draft class. But I don't see anybody else in the same class, in the same breath as Ashton Genty in this draft class. I just don't. He's different. And when we get to volume 1, I'll explain why he's different. I don't think I need to, but I will. Right. A lot of good, like you said, this draft is loaded, man. It's loaded. I've never seen anything like it. But again, it ain't a bunch of high-end talents. It's a bunch of really good guys that offer you the ability to be good NFL backs, with some of them having the chance to be dynamic NFL backs. But Genty comes in with the profile that screams, oh, I'm not only going to be successful in the league, I'm going to be a dynamic, successful back from day one. Not everybody screams that in this draft. And, you know, some people want to talk about his speed, and we'll get into that. We'll talk about that in volume 1. Commander Lorian, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Commander Lorian writes, I'm a Hurricane fan, Lou, and that SU running back Allen is a problem for real. I forgot about him. Yeah, LaQuint Allen is the truth, okay? What are the Giants doing? Super Friends anytime soon? Salute. I can't tell you when the Super Friends will link again. It won't be this month, probably sometime next month. You know, we'll get together in April for sure, because we'll be close to the draft. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to jump on a podcast probably right after this, if time permits. I'll jump on and do a podcast episode. So we'll talk about the Giants. We'll talk about the Giants. You know what? I'm not like tripping off of what the Giants are doing, but I understand why people have apprehension about what they're doing. I get that. Totally get it. CJ Shoots Photo. Thank you for being a member for 43 months. Salute to you, who writes, really want a running back in the 2nd round. AP will wait till the 4th. Look, depending on what he's looking for, you could wait till the 4th and still. I've already talked about it. If he took Jaden Blue in the 4th round, I wouldn't bat an eye. Because so many of you want B-Rob replacements. I'm not looking for a B-Rob replacement. I just want speed. You give me Jaden Blue in the 4th round, and I'm good, bro. I'm good. Now, if you're looking for a B-Rob replacement, you need to do that in the 2nd round. You need to do that in the 2nd round. Lorenzo Simpson, my guy Zoe, been a member for 42 months. Salute. My guy Zoe writes, who is the best 3rd down change of pace back in this draft class? Travion Henderson. Excuse me, Travion Henderson. But, you know, some team may draft Travion Henderson and turn him into a 1st, 2nd, 3rd down back. Again, I think the way he was used at Ohio State is the way he should be used at the NFL level. They went in the transfer portal and went and got Quinshon Judkins. Why? Because they did not want to run Travion Henderson into the ground, right? But some team may take him and say, no, we see him as an every down back, and he'd be able to do it. But again, I just don't think that's the best usage of Travion Henderson. But yes, he is at the top of the list if you're talking about change of pace. But again, there's several other guys that could fit that bill as well. So many guys. All right. Like I just told you, I love Jaden Blue. So a lot of those. But again, a lot of times if you are looking for a third down back, that guy has to be able to protect, pass protect. Guys got to be able to pass protect. Ree, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ree writes, the winning blueprint, the handy dandy pointer, NFL's most wanted. Good times, my old friend. Man, I threw a NFL's most wanted throwback episode on like maybe 4 or 5 months ago, 6 months ago, something like that. Threw that on, and that took me down memory lane. I watched a couple of them, and it was hilarious. The handy dandy pointer. Oh man, yeah. Boy, the production quality was at an all-time low in those days, but it was also in the stone age of YouTube sports content creation too. I was one of the few guys doing it back then, so it was crazy, you know, looking at it. But yeah, the winning blueprint presents. Oh man, hey, you got me, Ree. You got me going down memory lane. Ree, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ree writes, if Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan, is there at 19, I'm sprinting to turn that card in, Lou. Would you as well? He will be gone at 19, though. I don't know if he'll be gone at 19. A lot of people question his long distance speed. Like, how fast are you really? A lot of guys got on top of Will Johnson over the last 2 years, specifically last year. I think he's a really good corner, and I'd take him. But sometimes you don't need to overthink it. But the question is, how fast will he run? And I don't know if Michigan's already had their pro day or not. My guess is they've already had it. Did he run at the pro day? Again, dudes are doing a really good job of hiding now. Like, I talked about this already, but Tet McMillan and Cam Scatterbull didn't run a 40. They didn't do anything at their team's respective pro days. Nothing. Like, that's a problem for me. If you want to be the first receiver off the board, if you're Tet McMillan, I need you to run. I need to know how fast you are. Like, again, that shouldn't stop him from being one of the first receivers taken. But if you want to be, I know how fast Matthew Golden is, and I love his tape. So, again, you offer something he can't. You don't have to be as fast as Matthew Golden. I know you're not running a 4.2 anything. But as long as you can close that gap, your size makes a difference. So if you're running a 4.48, that's plenty fast for me. I'm good, right? You're my guy. But if that's a 4.58, uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hell, Mike Evans even ran a 4.52. You ran a 4.58. Hey. And again, Keenan Allen wasn't the fastest guy in the world. And I know he had some injuries and things of that nature when he ran his 40s. When he was coming out, he was really faster than that. Still, Keenan Allen is not a burner, right? You don't want to, downgrade a guy too significantly because he's not fast, but you want to be the first receiver, and this is really where I'm coming from. You want to be the first receiver in this draft. I need to know how fast you are. So dude's a duck in a 40, man. Dude's a duck in a 40. So I don't know. Maybe Will Johnson might duck it too. All you got to do is come up with some sort of phantom injury. Oh, yeah, I had off-season surgery, whatever. Or you just say, I don't want to run it. And a team's going to have to trust the tape. I could see Will Johnson falling down the board. He's not falling out of the first round, but I'm talking falling out of the first half of the first round. The top half. Yeah, I can see that happening without question. He'd be the perfect corner for you guys too. Perfect corner for what Todd Bowles wants to do. Oh my God. He would thrive in Tampa. He would thrive in Tampa. He may be there. I wouldn't dismiss it. This time last year, there was no way in hell he would be there. This time last year, Donovan Edwards, there was no chance Donovan Edwards wasn't going in the first 2 days of the draft. Donovan Edwards may not get drafted this year out of Michigan. So a lot has changed since the Michigan Wolverines won the national championship. We'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the Draft Prospects 101 series. Running Backs Volume 3. We'll be back tomorrow with Volume 2 live. I think you're going to get Volumes 2 and 1 tomorrow, potentially. Now, I'm thinking about today's Wednesday. I don't know why I was thinking today was Tuesday. Today's Wednesday. Because I want to jump on live with you on Friday night to discuss the running back position as a whole. And maybe I can still do that on Volume 1. So I may not have to do that. I think tomorrow will be Volume 2. Friday will be Volume 1. And then we can talk about the entire running back position as a whole as we close out the position. And then we transition to edge rushers. So that's what the schedule will look like. So yeah, that's what you should expect. And then like I said, we're going to hit the ground running and we're just going to keep going. Head down. Draft is, less than a month away. So we're just going to keep our head down, keep grinding until the draft gets here. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the Draft Prospects 101 series. Until next time, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. See you guys next time. Peace.